This session is currently being recorded, and we're going to make it public on the Generation Next social media pages on our Instagram and Facebook, and also on the Center State CEO website. The chat will be open for all questions and comments that you may have, but don't come off mute until our presenter speaks, and you can ask him any question that you may have off of mute. But as of right now, just drop any questions that you may have in the chat. And if you don't want to come off mute and ask them those questions, I will ask them the questions when the time is right. Also, we have a survey towards the end of the event that we would like everyone to take to make sure that we're incorporating, all of your ideas and, your thoughts about the event into future events. And just make sure, we're building this tech and culture network out, and, everyone is involved that's participated in the event. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our amazing speaker, Bobby Allen. Bobby Allen is the CTO and Chief Evangelist of CloudGenera, a company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. He has been in cloud computing since 2012, and he's also a feature speaker in various national events, and he's a pastor as well. So Bobby is really doing a lot right now, and we're just honored that he's here to spend the night with us. Honestly, Bobby is gonna talk to us about, the opportunities here in tech, and, how you can make more money in tech fields than in some careers, like professional sports or, acting. So he's just really here to talk to us about the lucrativeness of a career in tech. So without further ado, Bobby, you take the floor.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you to Center State. I appreciate you all having me here. Let me start to share my screen. Okay. Marcus, let me know when you can see my slides, please.
I can see them now.
Okay, excellent. So thank you all for having me here. As Marcus said, my name is Bobby Allen. I'm CTO for CloudGenera, which is a company based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, which I like to call Silicon South. And I say Silicon South because all the innovation doesn't come out of the West Coast. There are people, some folks think that we're country bumpkins down in Charlotte, but we're not. We have good ideas and we do good stuff. So that's why I try to represent that way for the Southeast. As Marcus talked about, our topic tonight is going to be balling in the cloud. Is it really possible for engineers to make more money than professional athletes? And so I would say that the answer is yes. But for those of you who may be saying, hold on, bro, you got to back that up, I am going to give you some numbers for why I say that. So if you let me kind of unpack this statement, I want to show you why. There are people on this call, if you take advantage of some of the things that I'm going to put in front of you tonight, you actually can do a lot of the things that I'm talking about in these slides and more. I want you to feel like this is accessible. Cloud computing is absolutely the future, and you all can take advantage of that even if you have not gone to college or finished college. So I want you to specifically mention that because, yes, I've been to college. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. That is not a requirement to participate in the things that I'm going to tell you. So what are we going to talk about tonight? So kind of 5 core things. 1, I want to give you a simple definition of cloud computing. I want to talk to you a little bit about what my company does in 2 slides, just to give you an idea of what some of the companies in cloud computing actually do. Then, what does it look like if I'm juggling whether to be an athlete or an engineer? Finally, how do I get started in the cloud, and what can I do if I want to learn more about this? So let me first off give you a definition of what cloud computing actually is, and then we'll unpack why we think that's something that can be important to you. So here's a definition. I won't read through this. I'll just say this. Cloud computing is really about a bunch of connected resources that you all already use today. Many of the services that are on your phones and that are on your computers are connected by way of the internet. And what's cool about this is you don't have to ask a person to give you access to what you want to do. If you go on Netflix, you don't have to call somebody up to download a movie. Or if you're on Amazon Prime or different things like that, there are connected servers and storage and computing that are all linked together by way of the internet. You can use it whenever you want to, and you can turn it off whenever you want to. The other aspect of cloud computing that's interesting is it's treating computing like a utility. So just like you have electricity at your house, you don't have a generator outside of your home or your apartment. You use whatever you use, and you pay a bill for the amount of electricity that you use. Cloud computing is very similar. It's connected, it's available, it's on demand, and you only pay for what you use. You're not paying to build out all the infrastructure. Next, let me transition a little bit just briefly. Again, 2-slide overview. I want to talk to you about what my company does. So there are lots of different options in cloud computing. When people talk about the cloud, there's not one cloud. There are multiple clouds that are all connected. So Amazon has a cloud, Microsoft has a cloud, IBM has a cloud, Oracle has a cloud, and a lot of private companies have clouds, right? Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, the NBA may have a cloud, the NFL may have a cloud, but this is kind of what my company does. We consider ourselves the travel agent for the cloud, which is a term to collectively talk about all of those different clouds. So we take in the needs of the users and the applications, and we consider this to be like a travel itinerary. So I'm in Charlotte. If I'm going to fly to Florida for vacation, it doesn't make sense for me to fly on Singapore Airlines. American Airlines, Delta Airlines would make more sense. So we take what it is that you want to do and map that to the capabilities of the market. Does it go better for you to run this particular application in Amazon's cloud or Microsoft's cloud or in your own cloud? So if you were someone who's an entrepreneur making up something like a video game, what is the best place for you to run that video game? Is it out of the Oracle cloud or the IBM cloud, or et cetera? For those of you who may understand some of the things that are happening technology-wise, one of the most popular clouds right now is actually this one right down here in the bottom, Oracle. Oracle recently won contracts for Zoom and for TikTok, if you've been paying attention to what's happening in the news. So those applications are going to be running out of Oracle's cloud if you were ever curious about what that actually looks like. Now, the output of what my company does is kind of like a credit score. So we take your needs or your application itinerary and bump it up against those cloud providers, almost like an airline, and then give you an assessment back we call our Cloud Rank score. It's got a bunch of different components, right? Tech fit and security fit and SLA and all that. But this is what we've done, and we've carved this out where we're some of the experts in the industry that tackle this topic. I'm going to just pause for a second. Marcus, there's something in the chat. Okay, I'm going to press on. So this is kind of an output of what we do. So again, you've got an example now of one type of business that runs in the cloud. Now, let me transition to what this means for the folks that may be on this call. So here's my question for you all to ponder at home. How many of the billionaires on this slide made their money in tech, number one? And then number two, how many of the tech billionaires on this slide finished college? How many billionaires made their money in tech? And how many of the tech billionaires actually finished college? Now, the answer to that is, for those, you probably know at home, but you all are on mute, so I'm going to just share it for those who may not know. Bezos made his money in tech. Bill Gates made his money in tech. Mark Zuckerberg made his money in tech, and Larry Ellison made his money in tech. Warren Buffett did not make his money in tech, but he's made a lot more money because of tech. So let's consider him kind of on the borderline. Now, out of the ones that actually finished college, the only one of those four guys who made their money in tech that finished college is this guy, Bill Gates. And he didn't finish college until much later after he was already rich. Now, how rich are these people? And how much has their wealth increased since the pandemic started? So what I'm going to do for 4 of the 5 people across the top line who made their money directly in tech or because of tech, what you're going to see me flash up is what they were worth in March and then what they were worth at the end of September, to give you an idea of how much money we're talking about that's actually in tech. Richest guy in the world. Second richest guy in the world. Third richest guy in the world. We're going to skip number 4 because he made his money a different way. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. Now, if you all don't know where these billionaires made their money, Zuckerberg is Facebook, like we said. Warren Buffett is a career investor. He made his money investing in companies and doing things, moving his money around. Bill Gates is the Microsoft guy. Jeff Bezos is the Amazon guy, for those who may not know that at home. So when you think about all those packages that are flying around, hitting your doorstep and your neighbors and all that, it's Amazon. I was joking with someone earlier today. Some of us get so much stuff from Amazon, we could almost have them be a line item on our pay stub, right? So here's my salary, but then here's FICA and Social Security and taxes and Amazon. Because some of us are almost sending a portion of our paycheck to Amazon with all the packages that come in every single week. Now, how did this guy, Jeff Bezos, make his money? Let's break some of this down, because I want you all to understand where his money came from. And a lot of his money came from tech. Now, there's a portion of Amazon called AWS, Amazon Web Services. That is Amazon's cloud computing division. And they use that to power things like Amazon.com, but they also sell excess capacity in AWS, and other businesses run their businesses out of Jeff Bezos' cloud. So for example, what am I talking about? Let's unpack this. Apple, most of us know Apple. Apple pays AWS to the tune of $30 million a month. And they've committed to pay him at least $1.5 billion over the next 5 years. Netflix pays Amazon, or was paying Amazon, correction, between $30 and $40 million per month before the pandemic started. Now think about how many more people are streaming everything in the world off of something like Netflix now that people have been home more. What else runs out of AWS? Disney Plus, Fortnite, Twitch, which Amazon actually acquired, Facebook, LinkedIn, and ESPN. And this is not an exhaustive list. Anytime you use any of those services, you are making Jeff Bezos richer. And I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I just want you to understand this is how this man made his money and how he's continuing to get more wealthy as we consume these services. And how much money are we talking about? The last 3 bullets here. AWS revenue, so just the cloud computing division, their revenue last year was $35 billion. So this part of his company that does cloud stuff is bigger than many other companies, even that trade on the stock market. Now, total revenue for Amazon in all of 2019 is the next to last bullet. $280 billion is what they took in all of last year. And then finally, this is where we have to prepare ourselves for just the domination that this man has had in the market. If you take all of Amazon, including AWS, they stroked almost $90 billion just in the second quarter, just April through June. That's before folks went back to school. And that's before we kind of got into the part of the pandemic in the fall where people are buying everything and streaming everything in the world. Let me present something to you that you all may not have considered. This is how Jeff Bezos is an absolute gangster when you think about it. Jeff has something like Amazon Prime, right? Where you can download music and stream movies. I've actually got Amazon Prime. My daughter and I watch stuff on there all the time. How gangster is it where people are paying you for Prime, but your biggest competition for streaming is likely Disney Plus and Netflix, and you're getting paid off of them too. So if you lose a customer that would have been on Prime that goes to one of them, he's still getting paid. Like his domination is that thorough. So again, why is he so rich? Because every time somebody plays Fortnite, does iTunes, or does Netflix, cha-ching, cha-ching, he's ringing that cash register. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's continue to our next topic. Athletics or engineering. So let's frame this up. So we're just going to talk about the big 3 sports right now: baseball, football, basketball. And when we think about this conversation, we need to think about the 4 bullets on the side: average salary, career length, total earnings over the course of that career, how long or short it is, and then likelihood to actually make it to the league, right? And not get hurt in your career. So what this is saying is, I won't read the entire slide, but what you're seeing here is in Major League Baseball, the average annual salary is $520,000, right? The average length of your career is 5.6 years. So when you do the math, their lifetime earnings are going to be just under $3 million. Football earnings are just over $3 million. And then lifetime earnings for basketball are right around $12 million. Okay, so that's the frame of mind about where you are as an athlete. Let's transition that to engineering. We go to engineering, right? You've got a 63% chance of getting accepted to an engineering school. You've got a 60% chance of graduating. And then you have a 97% chance of getting a job, right? Now, engineering school may be college. It could be a coding boot camp. It could be something else along those lines where you're getting these technical skills, right? But if you do these things, right, you're going to be able to earn on average $125,000. Keep that number in mind for some things I'm going to show you later. You're going to have a career that's likely to be 30 to 40 years. And so if you get an average salary for a typical amount of time, you're going to earn over $5 million. So you've out-earned baseball. You've out-earned football. The only thing you haven't caught is basketball because they were more like 12 million. But if you happen to end up at one of those companies that really, really pays you, like a Facebook or a Google, you actually can't even catch a basketball player. Because again, they were right around 12 million. And so Facebook and Google and companies like that, they call those often FANG companies. Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, places like that. You can actually catch a professional athlete who has a really decent career and actually earn 8 figures over the course of your career. Now, the reason I bring this up is because of that graphic that's in the upper left-hand corner. Your odds of getting into the NBA are just a little bit better than getting struck by lightning, which are all less than 1%. So when you think about it this way, right, the payout is comparable. Your likelihood is much higher. And if I blow an ACL or tear up a knee, I can still do my job with a laptop and an internet connection. So think about that, right? How likely is it? I don't know about you all. I'm only 6'1" and maybe 200 pounds soaking wet. I'm not going to make it to the NBA or the NFL. I've missed that window. But I can absolutely get it done and be a rock star when it comes to technology and cloud computing, make a very good living for myself and take care of my family. That's what I want you all thinking about. We're not all able to be athletes. We can all be engineers and go into technology if we want to make a great, great living. Now, how do I figure out if this is something that seems like you're connecting with? How do I figure out ways to get started? And I want to give you a couple things to ponder. What are you actually interested in? And here are a couple things to ponder. What do you do most on your phone? Because most of the things that you do on your phone are likely tied to the cloud and technology somehow. Number 2, what was the last thing you bought online? Think about what you bought on Amazon or Walmart or Target or whatever that you had shipped to your house. The cloud was likely involved in that. Technology was involved in you getting that purchase and getting that package. What do your friends spend money on? What do they typically buy? What do you watch on television or YouTube or Netflix or whatever you stream from? What would you do for free if money was no object? And finally, what excites you? Think about these types of questions to think about what you might want to do as relates to technology. The world is very open now to where everything is kind of a tech company, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but you all have a tremendous opportunity to be able to get into some things that make a lot of sense. Let me just make sure that this is connecting okay. So hopefully you all are nodding your heads at home that yes, I can do this because I'm telling you that you can. I've spoken at headquarters for major companies in Silicon Valley. And let me also tell you this. There are some executives that I meet that I'm impressed with, but there are a lot that I'm not. So as I'm sitting in headquarters for some of these major companies that I talked about, you all may not believe me, but borrow from my confidence. They are not necessarily any smarter than us. Some of them have had opportunities and people that open doors. You all can absolutely do this. And even if you don't believe me, borrow from my confidence and know that it is possible. I know several people in the industry, folks that I've connected with online and met in person. There's one lady that I met that used to live in Charlotte. She was a homeless single mother living with 2 kids, and she taught herself how to program looking at YouTube. She's a software engineer at Facebook now, making great money, living wherever she wants to. I know people that are nail techs, people that used to do hair, and those are all respectable jobs. I'm not hating on those or knocking those at all. But they transitioned from those jobs into technology and tripled and quadrupled their salaries because they saw how lucrative it was actually going to be. Now, let me talk about this in more detail so you don't think that Bobby's just kind of making this up. Here we go. Let's look at a couple job offers from 2018. So if you were someone a couple years ago that got offered a job at Google, your salary could expect to be around $141,000, $50,000 signing bonus, and $200,000 of stock over 4 years. Netflix does it a little bit differently. No bonus, really good money up front, 5% stock. And then you see where Uber is, pretty decent salary, signing bonus, end of year bonus, stock. Now, Bobby, that was 2 years ago, right? Maybe that's not as relevant now. Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I've got some 2020 job offers for you. Let's take a look at that. So if you look at hashtag salary transparency on Twitter, they're actually, I just pulled this off of something that I came across this week on Twitter where people are talking about what they actually were offered in the year 2020 and where it is, right? Cybersecurity, DC area, almost $200,000 annually. Data scientists, right, in New York. How about a $185,000 salary and a $155,000 bonus? But the one that I really like is this third one. $200,000 in salary, $300,000 in stock, and a $60,000 a year bonus. Like there are so many opportunities, even if you're not in an area like New York or DC, in different parts of the country where you can absolutely get paid. I personally know people. I'm not making this up. Some of them are Black, some of them are not, who are actually making 7 figures every single year. I know people that make 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 a year. Some of them do that every year. Some of them do that when they have a good year. But the point is, these are people who don't all necessarily have college degrees, who don't have graduate degrees in many cases either, and don't all live in a really expensive location like New York City or Silicon Valley. This is doable for you all. Now, part of why I know this is doable is I'm going to put up a slide that's got some of the customers of my company. And I'm putting this up because I want you to understand how diverse the reach of cloud skills are, right? Think about what's represented on this slide. Car manufacturers, retail, sporting goods, healthcare, food, insurance, banking, electricity. And this is not even a complete list of the people that we deal with. Every single one of these customers are people that we help with cloud computing in some way or another. Cloud skills are relevant for every single industry. Everybody in the world has stuff that they're doing as relates to cloud, private cloud or public cloud. And here's the other thing broadly that I want you all to think about. There's really not a such thing anymore as a technology company. Everybody's a technology company now. You're just a tech company if you're someone like JP Morgan Chase. And I believe their CEO, Mr. Damon, actually said this. They're a tech company with the banking charter. Someone like Delta Airlines is a tech company with the transportation charter. Someone like AIG is a tech company with an insurance charter. Everybody is a tech company at this point, meaning if you get a job as a software engineer or as a cloud architect or something like that, you have given yourself an opportunity to have a fighting chance at every logo on this page and any company that you might pull up that trades on the stock market or that you patronize right now. You have that much opportunity to get a job making the kind of money that we've been talking about. Now, what if you want to go a little further? What about some next steps? Number one, I don't know everything. I don't want to present it that I do, but hit me on LinkedIn or Twitter if I can answer your questions. I do probably the most on Twitter these days. @BAllen_CLT, think ballin' in Charlotte. Like I said, trying to represent the Southeast. That's what I try to do. I try to post helpful thoughts on Twitter. If you hit me on Twitter, I'll do my best to respond. LinkedIn, I'll do my best as well, but I do get a little swamped with requests there, just to be honest. But how to practically move forward, right? Udemy.com, UDEMY, is a place where you can take classes in anything. If you're curious about learning, Udemy is a great place to learn about programming, photography, public speaking, writing, anything you want to learn. You can go to Udemy, search it, take a class, and you're listening to an instructor on video where you can stop it and practice as much as you want. What I recommend, if you're doing something now that maybe you're not thrilled with and you want to transition to something else, I would pursue the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. And if you look at my next 2 bullets, you can actually get that certification for less than a pair of Jordans. You can take a $30 class on Udemy. You can take a $20 practice test. And you can take a $100 exam. For $150, you can get a certification that a failure might look like you only get a job offered $75,000 a year. But you might get a job offered $80,000 to $100,000 a year. It's quite possible out of the gate to make crazy money, maybe more than you ever thought you could do, because you're in the right space at the right time. Now, why else is this important? 3rd bullet. Because data is exploding, right? Data is everywhere. If you think about this next bullet, and you may have never heard this before, when you think about watches and phones and computers and soon to be self-driving cars and all that, all these things generate data. Listen to me. If you look at all of the data created in the history of man from the beginning of time, 90% of the data in the world was created in the past 2 years, because that's how much data is exploding right now. That's part of why there are going to be so many jobs. That's part of why there are going to be so many engineers and cloud people. That data's got to be stored somewhere. It's got to be analyzed. It's got to be cultivated. This is going to be huge. It's going to keep exploding. So if you feel like you're getting left behind, I'm telling you that's absolutely not true. Next one, there are going to be lots of opportunities, like I said, because every company is a tech company now. You legitimately can have a shot at every one of those logos and more that I talked about on that last page. Next, there are going to be a lot of virtual conferences this year. where you can sit right in the comfort of your home on a computer or on a laptop or on a phone and listen to people that are great speakers, giving you tremendous content that you would have normally had to fly somewhere for. Take advantage of that and use that to level up and motivate yourself to keep pushing. Lastly, think about what really powers your phone. Follow the data and think about who's getting paid from that. That kind of concludes the official part of my presentation. I want to give you a few closing thoughts, just a few things to ponder that help push me as I think about where to go next from a career perspective. There are so many different things that we can do right now. And I want to offer you just a couple thoughts to marinate on as we kind of land the plane and transition to a QA, if that's okay with the audience. There are lots of things that are coming at you. You know, you've heard me talk. The reality is I'm just talking to you. You don't know me from Adam. You know, I want you to believe what I'm saying, but I want you to dig in and kind of scratch the pain and decide if this is something that you want to go further on. But this is one of the things I want to put in front of you to ponder. Starting now with what you do have, be starting later with what you might have. That person you admire didn't get better because they waited, they got better because they started. And the reality is, everyone listening to me right now, you have enough at your disposal, right? You have enough. And I know there's some people on this call that can be creative, right? You can figure out how to get done the stuff you need, right? You know how to hustle, you know how to get after it. You have enough that's accessible to you today to make this happen, right? Anybody can come up with $20 or $30 to take a course on Udemy. And even if you can't, if you search on Udemy, there are actually courses on there for free that you can start with. So think about that, right? There are courses you can take for $30 or even possibly for free that have a good chance to land you a six-figure job. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that? But you got to start, right? Don't keep waiting for someday, because then it'll be a year from now, you'll be thinking about, man, Bobby fired me up. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. I didn't take advantage of that. Why didn't I do that? Start now with what you have. You're going to make some mistakes. Roll with the punches and keep moving. Next thing. What about if I decide that I want to do something different in the future, right? I'm just getting started in this thing, Bobby. I don't know where I'm going to land. Like, that's okay. We call that career change management. And I want to share with you what one of my mentors told me. Over the course of your career, you're not going to do the same thing all the time, right? You're going to want to do different things. There are typically three things you can change in your career: what you do, where you do it, and who you do it for or with. And so we talked about that being, when I talked to my mentor, that's your role, your residence, and your relationships. Changing one of those things is doable. Changing two is difficult. Changing three is dangerous. So let's talk about this for a second. So let's say that I get a job as an architect or as an engineer at a certain company on the East Coast, right? But I want to think about moving to the West Coast to go do something else. If I maybe know a person that's at that company, right, that referred me, or that's going to be my manager, or that's going to be a peer of mine, great, check the box, that's cool. If I'm going to be working in the same area, but maybe at a different company, you're only changing one thing, really. You can handle that. You're only changing where you do it. You know somebody there and you know the role. That is very doable. Take a risk, right? I grew up in the DC area, and I remember I shared the story with Marcus. I actually went to undergrad at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I went to grad school at University of Michigan, and then I went out to Oregon. And not to be stereotypical, but a lot of folks in DC don't really know a lot about Oregon. And I remember at the time, my great-grandmother, who was alive at the time, when I told her I was moving to Oregon, she says, "Baby, there's no Black people in Oregon." And I said, "Well, Grandma, my wife is coming with me, so I got at least one other person that's going to be there, but I'll figure it out." But I took a shot. I took a chance to go do something, and going out there to Oregon to work for Intel at the time changed my life. So what I want you all to think about is take a risk, take a shot, because really any failure you make before you're 40 is something that you're going to learn from, that you can build on, right? It's very possible to make that work for you. Third thing, and I'm almost done. I want to encourage you, team, be excellent no matter the size of your platform, right? You got to bring your A game every single time. If people are giving you their time, you owe them your best. And this is one of my personal mantras. The best way to be successful when everybody knows your name is to start being faithful when nobody knows your name. Don't try to turn it on or off. Be professional, be excellent, be pushing for the best no matter where you are, right? And no matter who you're in front of. Do your best, and people are going to find you if you're excellent. If you do your best, people are going to gravitate towards that. They're going to want to support you. They're going to want to help you. It doesn't matter if everybody can't see you yet. It's going to happen for you eventually. Last one, again, another personal mantra of mine. Greatness is about what everybody sees. Excellence is about what anyone sees. Faithfulness, when nobody's looking, is about what no one sees. You will have a tremendous opportunity. Right now, you're at a point in time in history that is very exciting. People of all ages, all genders, all races can do things that our parents and grandparents couldn't have dreamed about. You all can absolutely do this. If your dream is to be sitting on a beach with a laptop one day, doing a job, making a great salary, that's doable for you. If your job is to be able to buy a house for your family, that's doable for you. To have options, that's doable. And I don't want you all to apologize when you get that job and you make a lot of money, because you've seen, remember what Jeff Bezos is worth and what Warren Buffett and those folks are worth? You're not taking money out of their pocket. They can afford it, right? So when you go in there and you're making $150,000, $200,000, that's round off air. Don't apologize for it. Go get that money. Go get that paper. Make all you can, but don't spend all you get. That's another lesson for another time, maybe about stewardship. But that's it, team. I'm done. I'll stop here. I appreciate you all listening for the last 29 minutes. Just know that this is doable. Y'all can go after this. Make it happen. You have enough within your means to make this happen today. Go get it. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Bobby. Amazing. This is very amazing and inspirational, and we appreciate you coming in and enlightening us tonight. Now I wanted to open up the floor to all the audience to ask any questions that you may have for Bobby. You can drop questions in the chat, and I'll relay them to him, or you can come off mute and ask him any questions that you may have.
Oh, don't be shy. What do you want to know?
Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Hey, just very briefly, I'm with our Urban Jobs Task Force, and we kind of produce an agenda which highlighted the discrimination in the construction trades in Syracuse, and for the Central New York area. And as a result, the mayor and DOT are doing a sort of a big table approach to trying to remediate that. But there are other opportunities coming up because of the I-81 project at Syracuse, which may relate to tech and things which relate to New York State, which has just passed a climate action law last year, which is supposedly rivaling in most or any other state in the nation. And this will undoubtedly include tech, and especially as cars turn more and more electric. And there are a lot of opportunities that way in the sort of green fields. Do you have anything that you're seeing on those fronts?
I mean, like I was saying before, it's a great question, Peter. I think that tech isn't everything. Let me tell you something that you all may not have known. So in Pittsburgh, I want to say 3 years ago, if you did an Uber in Pittsburgh, there was a 30% chance of getting a self-driving car 3 years ago. And so think about all the opportunities for all the things that we do, all the things that we wear. There's technology in everything, right? And I fight it somewhat, but I've been married 21 years, so I learned enough to just say yes there and roll with what my wife wants to do. But like, I fought her because she wanted to have an oven that was connected to Wi-Fi. I'm like, why do we want to do that? But you know what, Marcus and team, what I do now when I'm at the restaurant coming home, because I bake chocolate chip cookies for my family every night. So when I'm driving home, I go on my phone and I preheat the oven so it's hot when I get there. So what's interesting is there are all these different devices that are going to be connected to the internet and to technology. Eventually, your refrigerator is going to tell you what you need to buy at the grocery store. The milk is old. The eggs are bad. Like, we're getting to that point where all of these different devices in our homes are going to be connected. And so again, think about what you're interested in, because at some point it's going to be connected to the internet. It's going to be producing data, and there are going to be things that we can glean from it. So here's another practical example for those who may care about healthcare. I've got an Apple Watch on, connected wearable devices. Someday down the road, Peter, people are going to be able to look back at Apple Watches and those devices and say, we missed the signs of a stroke. We missed the signs of a heart attack. How do we analyze that information to save lives down the road? And one that's very close to my heart is, how about using technology to give people that might have had disabilities more access to jobs? If I'm blind, if I'm deaf, if I can't type with both hands, why can't I use technology to make those people that may seem less physically able, they can still use their brain just fine? Let's help them level up and even the playing field. If you're passionate about it, technology's in it, and there's a way to be creative and apply that. So I think anything is wide open right now.
We have a question in the chat from Leticia. I may have missed this, but what did you study in college and grad school?
Okay, I studied computer science in undergrad, and I did computer science and engineering in grad school. Parenthetically, I went through school with my wife. So I was in class with her, and what that meant in grad school was, if you can imagine, just getting married, being a newlywed, everything in Michigan in engineering was graded on the curve. So if I do better, my wife has to do worse, or vice versa. So that was a little tough. I wouldn't recommend everybody go through school with your spouse, but we had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot in terms of how to work together. But that's what I did. Now, having a master's degree in computer science and engineering is helpful. But again, a lot of the rooms that I've been in, people that I've talked to, there are some sharp people who don't have it. So you don't need it. Don't let it stop you. If you have an opportunity to go get your education, please do that. But don't feel like you're a failure or like these opportunities are not open to you if you're not able to get that. Looks like there's a follow-on question. Marcus, can I address that?
For sure. What majors would you recommend for young people?
I think you're on mute, Marcus.
Am I on mute? Okay. Can you hear me now? Hear me? All right. What majors would you recommend for young people that?
Can you all hear me okay? Okay. I think
Can you all hear me? Bobby, can you hear me?
Sorry, say again.
Can you hear me, Bobby?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so the question is about, I guess, majors. So computer science is an obvious one. Business information systems is another one. Data science is another popular major at a lot of places now. So I'm going to give you one that's a little bit different too, because one of the things, I'm big on being creative, and I don't like people being locked into boxes. You know who actually really does very well in technology oftentimes? Musicians. Musicians do well because if you're a musician, you have to be creative and you have to be able to juggle things that you can't touch or see. When you think about a jazz musician who's improvising, they've got to see the notes in their head. They've got to think about harmonies and transposing things and stuff like that. So there are a lot of people that are in music then transition into tech, especially cloud, because you're working with resources you're never going to touch, right? I can pull up on my laptop a server in China. I'm never going to see that, but I've got to be able to give it the instructions for what to do. So there are so many different ways that you can get into tech. And I would say, even if you have a non-technical major, try to at least take some technical classes. Like dip a toe in the water, see if there's something that you like, because you never know, right? Try robotics, try programming. I'll say this though, probably the most intimidating thing in technology is programming, because a lot of people just don't like the idea of coding. I actually taught programming for a semester at Michigan as a grad student assistant. And there were people that were like quitting their major and changing what they wanted to do, because when you've got, I'm dating myself a little bit. If y'all know The Matrix, Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, where you see all the code coming down the screen, that's what it looks like sometimes when you're coding, and that's intimidating to people. Listen, if you don't like coding and you don't like programming, there are absolutely jobs in technology where you don't have to code. So if you can dip a toe in the water, get exposed to it, that's great. Try it out, do a minor in something like computer science or information systems, and that'll be just fine.
We have another question from Leticia. How would you recommend getting children engaged in technology?
Lots of different ways. So my son is a sixth grader, and they actually offered a robotics class at his school. And there are a lot of classes. There are a lot of schools and after school clubs that'll do things with essentially Lego robots, Lego Mindstorms robots, and it starts to teach you how to program. And what's cool about it is you make a program on the computer and you download it to the robot, and then the robot has to follow certain instructions. So my home office is kind of on the other side of the house from our kitchen. And my son had to program his robot to, go a certain amount of paces in the kitchen, make a square, make a circle and all that. So my son did that. He finished the assignment, but then he decided, I want to program the robot to go all the way down to my dad's office. And so he did that. He wrote his own routine. And it was so cool seeing a light bulb come on for him, because he wrote something and then saw that get translated into a finished product when the robot did what he wanted. That's basically programming. So I think that's a great way to do it. The other thing that helps a lot of kids is a lot of kids do Minecraft, and you can make up worlds in Minecraft and you can program Minecraft. So, see what your kids are interested in, and then try to tie technology to that somehow, just to remind them that tech is in everything. My son tries to remind me that there are people that make a lot of money playing video games, and I remind him that there are people that make money writing video games. Let's go that route, if anything. So again, that's a father-son battle we could talk about another time, but there's something that your kids are doing that tech is in. That could be things like, my daughter, my 13-year-old is into let me take a step back for a second. So my kids both do virtual school. My daughter's ready to go to the mall when she gets up. Hair popping, lip gloss, earrings, everything. My son is half a step above homeless when he gets up to go to school in the morning. And so for my daughter, maybe technology looks like, why don't you write a program to compare different hair care routines or different skincare routines, or to compare different, outfits. There's some way the technology relates to something that they're interested in. And so that's what we want to do, is embrace what they already are passionate about, not force them down a certain path.
Thank you, Leticia. Those are a great series of questions. We have another question from Krista. She said, what or who sparked your interest in this field, and when?
Trying to think about that. Oh, I know what it was. So this is a long time ago. So I grew up in Maryland, not too far from NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. And I used to kind of, ride my bike, and, they were kind of down the hill from where my house was. And I used to always wonder what happened over there. What do those people over there do? Space scientists and Hubble telescope and all that. And I got an internship and was able to work there, and I got to see what a lot of them did. Now, building on that, the other thing that happened was one of my good friends in high school ended up becoming my roommate in college. And my parents were going to get me a computer, and his parents were going to get him a computer, and I had no idea what to get. So I started researching the types of specs for the computer that we were going to get it. And, at that time, we had these big old dinosaur computers that weren't sleek laptops like y'all have now. So I wanted to research the right kind of computer to get. And I started learning around, memory versus storage and hard drives and compute speed and all that. And that's kind of what started to get me interested in it. And it just kind of took off from there.
I actually have a question. When you were younger, did you see yourself doing this type of work that you do now?
I did not actually. I saw myself being a doctor. And my stepfather at the time was an ophthalmologist technician, so he worked a lot with eyes. And I don't like blood, Marcus. So my thing was, okay, if I'm going to be a doctor, I don't want anybody down on the table. So if I'm an ophthalmologist, the worst that'll happen is they go blind. That's a ticket for me, right? Again, ridiculous, but that's my thinking as a child. But what happened was, as I started to see where healthcare was going, I said, honestly, I don't want to have the burden of dealing with insurance and who can pay or who can't pay. I don't want to deal with that part of medicine. And so that really started to turn me off in high school. And so now I think the contrast is, and I have great respect for people in medicine. Lots of my friends and colleagues from college went into medicine. But here's the thing, right? If you're a doctor today, you're going to be a doctor 30 years from now for the most part, because you put all the time and effort into that. I can change up what I do totally. That's why I've worked at Intel, I've worked at Bank of America, I've done startups, I've worked with all sorts of different customers. I've done cloud stuff I did a sporting goods company yesterday morning. Today I did a totally different, like I can work with everybody in technology. So I've got diversity and flexibility in what I'm able to do. That's the part, I didn't know that in hindsight, but I love that now, that it's so flexible that I can go so many different ways.
I have another question.
Sure.
I know you gave a lot of advice in your presentation, but what is some advice that you can give to people who are looking to set off in a similar path as you?
I think just be consistent. So for example, let's say we talked about, right, getting a certification for less than the cost of a pair of Jordans. Just set some time. Like, let me back up for a second. So I'm not trying to compare notes around how people are busy. You know, everybody's busy. I'm busy as a CTO and as a pastor and as a father and as a husband. You find time for what's important to you. And so when a lot of us look at our schedules, we have a lot more time than we think we do. How much time do we spend looking at TV? How much time do we spend needlessly surfing the internet? What if we took an hour every other night, Marcus, because I know that we're not going to all be that studious all the time. If we took an hour every other night and spent that time going through a Udemy course, after a month or two, we'd already know so much more and be that much closer to a certification. Watch this. For folks that are listening on this call, if you listen to the stuff that I said, you could have a certification by Christmas. If you just did a few hours a week and worked through the material, right? I get it, right? I'm a Lakers fan. I love that the Lakers are in the playoffs. Watch the Lakers when they play, but do studying on the off nights, right? Do something like that, and you'll be making great progress on something that's going to impact your future.
Thank you, Bobby. We have another question from Leticia. What is the culture of tech, and are you seeing increase in diversity?
Ooh, that's a sticky question. The culture of tech. So let me be quite honest. So the culture of tech is such that there are lots of opportunities in tech, but there is not good representation for minorities and women in tech leadership. So when you look at the executives and you look at the people that are leading things and running things, there are lots of engineers and architects and people that are kind of coming in at the ground floor, maybe one level up from that. But in terms of who's really running things, that's where I continue to be disappointed, honestly. So I want to say there are 267 roles. If you look at the top 50 tech companies, there are 267 executive seats, right? C-suite leaders, CTOs, CIOs, CEOs, et cetera. Out of those 267, none of them are filled by Black women. 5 of them are filled by Black men, and 2 of them just got there. So basically 1% is what you had in leadership positions. And so the disappointment has been there are more people coming into tech. There are not as many people progressing and leading in tech as I would like. And so that is a source of frustration, to be honest. But again, part of that goes back to you got to be excellent. And I'm not implying that the lack of leadership is because there aren't excellent people, but I'm saying if we're not careful, that'll become an excuse not to bring your A game. So make that be someone else's problem, not your problem. You do your best, be your best, kill it every single time, knock it out of the park, and do the best that you can so that people recognize you and see that you're ready for that next role. And if that doesn't happen, start your own.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Leticia asked another one. How does your faith influence your outlook on life, career choice? Tell me the importance and impact of your faith in your work.
Oh my goodness. We don't really have time for that. Let me try to give a quick answer. I mean, my faith sets my priority. And I think my faith also aligns what's most important to me. So the reality is my faith tells me that, you know, I'm not going to use the term Christian. I'll say to define where I am, I try to be a wholehearted believer and follower of Jesus Christ. That's what I do. And so what that means to me is that I've got to be accountable to how he wants me to live my life. And part of that starts with the kind of father and husband that I am. And so my family is what I start with, not my work. Because there are other people that can do what I do at work. There are other people that can do what I do at church. My wife has one husband, my kids have one father. And at the end of the day, nobody writes on their tombstone that they wish they would have spent more time at work. They say that they wish they would have spent more time with their family. So my priority is my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, and also being able to just know that I'm not perfect, right? There are things that I mess up on all the time, and knowing that it causes me to give grace to other people, to make sure that I'm not judging them and bringing baggage and anger at them that's not fair. And if I do that, I need to be willing to apologize and tell them that I'm sorry. That's how I try to operate. I try to be kind to people and be a servant leader and see how I can help people, not just get stuff from them.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you everyone who asked great questions today. We truly appreciate it. I would like to say thank you to Bobby for coming in and giving this amazing presentation. We truly appreciate you. Thank you to everyone who participated in this event tonight. It was great to have you. Thank you for all the amazing questions, and thank you for allowing us to make this event, very informative and great. If you're looking for any additional resources, you can visit the Center State CEO website at centerstateceo.com. We have more upcoming events. You can also visit the Center State website to see those, and get involved. And you can also follow us on Generation Next social media on Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any questions about how to get involved with Tech and Culture, you can reach out to me, Marcus Webb. I can drop my email in the chat, and we can see how we can get everyone involved in Tech and Culture in the future. So once again, thank you for joining the Tech and Culture Happy Hour, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, you, Bobby.
Larry. Thank you all. Thanks, Marcus. Great job coordinating everything.
Appreciate it, Bobby.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Hit me via email if you need anything, but thank you again for having me on the program. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. I'll definitely hit you on email. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, you too. Good night.
Good night.